Hello, my friends. Welcome to Project Management Masterclass, the very first in this series where we're going to be covering everything you need to know for the PMP exam. My name's Phil, and I got certified in 2005 as a project management professional. And since I got certified, I've helped so many people across the world, organizations and individuals to get certified. Here's my buddy Roy, who joins me on the course to train the Agile segments. You'll be seeing Roy when you join the course. And Roy has been an Agilist for a very long time. He's trained all sorts of firms and industries in Agile. So you'll be hearing a lot more from him. Now, the company behind this, Praizion, has been training project management for over a decade. Here are some of the organizations that we've trained. We started off training Microsoft Project back in 2003 and started training the PMP exam in 2005. So today we're going to be talking about what is project management, who is the PMI, what is the PMP exam or the CAPM exam, how to get started in your studying, and everything else that you need to know. Now let's first talk about project management. When you look at project management, it is a set of systems, tools, processes, and procedures that help you to get your project from its current state to its future state. You could say project management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to a project to get that end goal done. Now, when you take a look at what is on the screen, these are constraints. Every project has constraints, and the three constraints that we typically look out for are schedule, scope, and cost. We refer to that as budget as well. Now, in the world of project management, there are two ways of managing projects. We have the traditional way in which scope is fixed and schedule and budget remain somewhat flexible. But we also have an adaptive approach to project management, and we flip that triangle on its head and scope becomes flexible while schedule and budget are fixed. We call that Agile. Now, to get a better idea of Agile, let's take a look at the Stacy complexity model. This model shows you when to use traditional methods, such as predictive methods. One that is very popular, you hear being referred to as waterfall, and that falls into this category of simple. This is requirements being close to agreement and the technical process to get the project done being close to certainty. But as you begin to venture towards complex, you find that you can no longer use very predictive methods. And that is where Agile begins to thrive, all the way into anarchy space. You got no clue what you're going to be doing, and it's full on chaos. That is when Agile thrives. So for this exam, you do need to understand both the world of predictive and the world of Agile. And that is what exactly we will be presenting to you all throughout the course, predictive and Agile. Now let's talk about the PMI. The PMI is the leading global association for project management. They were founded in 1969. They've been around for a very long time. And so has the PMP exam. If you take a look at this histogram, at the time I put this together, you can see that there were 40 people in 1984, but as at 2020, when I put this together, the number of PMPs, 40 PMPs in 1984, but in 2020, the number had gotten swollen to a million plus. Like right now, there's 1.1 million plus PMPs in the world. That is a huge amount of individuals getting certified. And the reason is because this certification can offer a ton of value to you. So you know the requirements, but what exactly is the exam? The PMP exam is a 180 multiple choice question test. You've got 230 minutes. Only 175 of the questions count because 5 are pre-test questions. The passing score is currently undisclosed. The questions are very situational, and PMI also evaluates proficiency levels in each domain. So, what are the steps to getting certified as a PMP? There are 5 broad steps to getting certified. And the very first one is this: eligibility. Be sure you are eligible to take the exam. How do you know you're eligible to take the exam? Take a look at the eligibility criteria. Taking a look at this criteria, you can see either you have a high school diploma or you have a 4-year bachelor's degree or the equivalent. Could be a 3 years bachelor's degree. The key word is bachelor's. So you've either got a high school diploma, an associate's degree or global equivalent, or a high school diploma, or a bachelor's degree, I beg your pardon. So if you fall into this category, you need 5 years of experience leading and directing projects. If you fall into this category, you only need 3 years leading and directing projects. But for both categories, you need 35 contact hours of formal education, except you are a certified associate in project management. So which one are you? Are you a high school diploma holder? Then that's 5 years of project management experience. Or do you have a bachelor's degree? That's 3 years of project management experience. So if you have any questions about this, I want you to put them in the comments below. Those of you watching live, put it to the side. Let us know what exactly you're thinking right now. Are you eligible to take it right off the bat? Some folks have questions about their experience. If you're one of those, don't be shy. Let us know that you have questions in that regard. And that is step one. Step two to getting certified is to make up your mind, go or no go. Decide to pursue the certification or not. Now, just remember, there are lots of advantages in pursuing a PMP. At the time I got certified, I was trying to break into a particular industry, in fact, a particular company. And they weren't giving me the time of day until I got certified. And that's how I was able to get into that firm. And I learned a ton of things way beyond what my master's degree could teach me, only because I got certified as a PMP. So you make a decision right now, go or no go. Or perhaps you need more time. Take your time, but I can tell you the benefits in my world outweigh the cost. Number three, pre-study activities. When you decide to move ahead, sign up to be a member of the PMI and commence your application. The reason is this. The exam at the moment costs $555 if you are not a member. If you are a member, it costs $405. And membership is $139 in that first year. So you're actually saving roughly $11, but you also get perks being a member of the PMI. So let's take a look at this breakdown. $405 if you're a member, $555 if you're not a member, $139. You do the math. You're saving yourself at least $11. And you're going to be able to download a copy of the Project Management Body of Knowledge Guide, whatever the edition that you find yourself using. So it makes sense, doesn't it, to be a member of the PMI. So that is another step. I call it the commitment step. That's number three, pre-study activities, sign up to be a member of the PMI and commence your application. Number four, PMP Masterclass. Go to Praizion.com. We have classes that are very, very wide covering in terms of Agile. We do very deep coverage of Agile. We do an extremely deep dive into hybrid. In fact, we call it an immersion because we immerse you into it. And if you join that PMP Masterclass, you will get everything you need to take the exam and pass the exam. And all of our students this year have passed with flying colors. And you know what else they do? They get certified as PMPs, but because they have so much raw Agile power, they go on to take the PSM exam. They clean the exam up almost immediately. Many of them go on to take the CSM exam, and they are really on fire for Agile. So if that sounds like something that is of interest to you, we encourage you, go on down to Praizion.com and let's get going. Number five, pass the exam. Schedule, take, and pass the exam because you absolutely can and you will. Just follow the right steps. Someone says, what is the breakout of the exam? How do you break it down? The exam is broken down into three categories. You've got people, 42%, process, 50%, and business, 8%. The people domain has 14 tasks. These tasks are covered in a document called the PMP Exam Content Outline. You could Google it, find it, read it. You see an example of all the things that a project manager is expected to do in any of these domains. If you want to know what it looks like, here's an example. Here's the people domain. So as a project manager, here are a few of the things they expect you to do. Manage conflict, lead a team, support team performance, empower team members and stakeholders, and all these other things you see on the screen. But if you zero into them, you get more clarity. So let's zoom in to the very first one, manage conflict. So what do they expect you to do to manage conflict? For example, interpret the source and stage of the conflict, analyze the context for the conflict, evaluate, recommend, and reconcile the appropriate conflict resolution solution. So on the surface, it sounds pretty straightforward until you begin talking about specifics like the Thomas Kilmann mode instrument used for conflict, where we have avoid or withdraw, compromise or reconcile, smooth or accommodate, and things such as that. So it could get pretty specific in some of these ideas behind the tasks that you're supposed to be able to perform as a PMP. The process domain is all about process. People domain, of course, is about people interactions. And the business domain is all about being aware what is happening in the environment around you and how should you respond. So that's the exam, people, process, business. 180 questions. Now, in addition to this slice up, be aware that you are expected to answer questions roughly 50% agile and hybrid and 50% predictive. So with this in mind, it's extremely important to understand the essence of agile and to feel comfortable with the idea of hybridization. And agile, as you know, is centered around the concepts, the manifesto, the values. We talk about the Agile Manifesto. If you go to agilemanifesto.org, you'll be able to see the Agile Manifesto with the 4 values and the 12 principles. This is very important for your exam. So when you take a look at the exam, have this in the back of your mind. It's broken down into a 50-50 split. And agile, from what we hear, is front and center. Someone says, what do the exam questions look like? Well, here's a very mundane example. You're working on an agile team as a contributor. What are some of the names for this role? This is just an example of multiple answers, single choice. Here is another example of what the exam could present. It could present drag and drop interactions, or it could present hotspot questions where you need to click where you believe the answer is. You could get questions of a slightly technical nature, perhaps a handful sometimes, maybe sometimes 1, maybe 2. So don't get scared of the technicalities. I know everyone's exam is different, but you're not going to get a massive smattering of technical questions. You could get a question that looks like this, also a hotspot type of question. You could also get questions where you select all that apply. You could get questions that look like this. Your team is currently going through storming stage of team development. This can be described by one statement. Which statement is it? Now, most of the questions you get on the exam is what should the project manager do next? Pretty much like what you're seeing here. This is a typical example. Your project requires N95 masks to be worn in the hospital. Vendor X sends you an email 1 week to the delivery date stating there will be a delay due to mail service delays. You need the masks urgently and source them the very next day with a replacement vendor. Why? 3 weeks later, you receive a bill from vendor X requesting payment according to the agreements in place. What should you do? Now, this is a typical example of how the exam questions are. You will get a lot of those, what should you do next? Or what should you do first? This is exactly how the exam questions are. Most of the questions are in the realm of what should the project manager do next? So get used to seeing questions of this nature quite a lot. Sometimes you might have questions that are not as threatening, and other times the questions you face might be pretty aggressive. In fact, be prepared to find questions of varying degrees of difficulty. Some questions you're going to have to use the process of elimination to tackle, and other questions you're just going to have to leave them and walk away, right? And when I say walk away, take a best guess before you walk away, because every question has a 25% chance of you getting it right when you guess. You got a 1 in 4 chance, so don't leave that chance and walk away. Before you walk away from the question, take a chance and just guess, move on. But the good news is you absolutely can do this. The next step is yours. What are you going to do? Are you going to take it? Are you going to move ahead and try to get this thing under control? Do the exam? I encourage you to, because you absolutely can. Now, before we go, we're going to talk about project management at a high level. So the question is typically, okay, you've told me what project management is at a high level, but are there any intricacies I can walk away with knowing from this webinar? Well, let me introduce you to a structure here, which I call the process group pentagon, which I constructed to help project managers better understand the dimensions of project management. The project management professional exam is built on both agile and predictive concepts, but as a base, you need something. And this is exactly what will help orientate you in the world of project management. Every project needs to be authorized. In other words, we need to initiate the project. When you initiate the project, we call that document that you work on a project charter. It charters the project. Every project then needs to be planned once it's been authorized. Yes, it's been authorized, but are we going to immediately begin doing things without planning? No, we aren't. We're going to plan. So we create a project management plan, and then we execute that plan. We call that executing. And as we're executing the work, all through the project, we're going to be monitoring how the project is proceeding. And if it's going off course, we are going to control. So we have monitoring and we have controlling. And as you begin to get the work done, you're checking the work, you're inspecting and adapting, and ultimately you're going to get to the point where you can close out either a phase in the project or the project as a whole. And we call that closing. So there are 5 process groups: initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, and controlling, and closing. There's a mnemonic for this, and it's I prefer extra money cash. I prefer extra money cash, or I prefer eating mangoes chilled. Now, when you have an understanding of these items, which I just told you were process groups, there's another layer of understanding you need. So these are all process groups. Okay? Process groups: initiating, planning, executing, monitoring and controlling, and closing. The next level is to understand what exactly is in these groups. And to better understand this at a very high level, you need to understand something we call knowledge areas. And there are 10 knowledge areas I'm going to cover really quickly for you. First one is integration. This is all about weaving the multiple components of the project together. The key words when you think about integration is coordinate, unify, combine. Coordinate all the moving parts of the project, unify all the moving parts of the project. And that is integration. Now, in integration, you have a number of processes, but we're not going to concern ourselves with the processes in integration just yet. Next, we have scope. Scope management is all about scoping out the project so that you get your arms around it, understanding what exactly needs to be done. And as you scope out the project, you're going to collect requirements, you're going to understand all the things that need to be done. And then we move into the scheduling section. We call it schedule management. And this is where we create the schedule. We create the schedule by breaking down the larger chunks of scope into activities and then sequencing those to get a schedule. The next thing we think about could be cost. And this is where you cost out all of those schedule items. You come out with a budget, you manage that project to the budget. Next, we have quality. Quality is all about fitness for use, conformance to requirements, and satisfying the customer. So in quality, we do just that. We focus on everything that is going to get us a quality product. Next, we have resources. And resources, the resource management knowledge area, this is where we pay close attention to human equipment, materials, supplies, and facilities. The next one we have is communications. And communications is all about communicating the message that you intend to communicate to the stakeholders. Communications is a small knowledge area with three processes: plan what to communicate, then communicate it, and then make sure it actually did the job. Next, we have the procurement management knowledge area, and this is where we plan what we're going to purchase from outside the firm to get the project done. And then we have the stakeholder area, and this is where we identify people who could be affected by the project or who the project, um, who could affect the project or who the project could affect. Lastly, we have an area that touches all the other areas, and we call that risk management. And risk is right there in the center. You could have scope risks, schedule risk, cost risk, quality risk, resource risk, communication risk, procurement risk. You could have uncertainty that could impact your project in multiple ways. And for that reason, we've put risk right there in the middle. So the summary of this, my friends, is as you prepare for the PMP exam, you need to have a framework to hang principles, concepts, techniques, methods, tools, ideas, models. You need a framework to hang them on. And this is a brilliant framework for you to begin to hang whatever you need to on these pillars. Okay. Now, you're going to learn a lot about leadership and process and problem solving and all sorts of things through the course. But knowing the core areas of project management will help you. Okay, now this is a very, very high level view, and that is sufficient for what you need to know at this time. Now, let's talk about the world of Agile. The world of Agile runs a little bit differently, to put it politely. It is wildly different. And you could ask the question, why Agile? Well, in this survey, you can see that of the companies that were surveyed, roughly 70 plus percent said they use Agile always, often, sometimes, or rarely. Only 12% said they never. That is a huge amount of companies. Now, a full 71% of organizations said sometimes, often, or always. Think about that. That is a massive amount of companies, 71%. And you know, of those 71% of firms, if you were to dig deeper, you will find that of the firms who use Agile, 70% of them use Scrum. What is Scrum? It's a lightweight, easy to understand model. It contains a set of practices, roles, events, artifacts, and rules designed to guide the team in executing the project. So, assuming you wanted to carry out a project, you could use Scrum if
It is more agile in nature. What exactly is Scrum? Let's take a look. In Scrum, we have 3 roles, 5 ceremonies, and 3 artifacts. The first artifact is the product backlog. This is a list of all the things the customer wants. Then we have a ceremony. We take this massive list of all the things the customer wants and we plan what are we going to do immediately. And we call the time box that we are going to do things in a sprint. But before we get into the sprint, we're going to plan what are we going to do in the sprint. We take a subset of the things in the product backlog, and those become our sprint backlog, which is a subset of what we're going to do within the sprint. Now, the sprint, historically, it has had anywhere from 1 to 4 weeks, but the sweet spot is actually 2 weeks. And I know up here it shows what the Scrum Guide once upon a time showed, but it's really 1 to 4 weeks right now in the 2020 Scrum Guide. So, anyway, sprint is up to 4 weeks. Some companies may use a lot less, some may use more, but the bottom line is in the sprint, we have a daily Scrum ceremony where we have a short 15-minute stand up meeting to better understand how to get things to done. In the middle of the sprint, we'll take a look at the product backlog again and refine it. And the product owner is a role that does this. Towards the end of the sprint, we get a potentially shippable increment. The individuals who work on this are known as the team. We also refer to them as developers. Collectively, we call all of these the Scrum team. Now, ultimately, you get your potentially shippable increment, which means you could ship. You don't have to. You could wait till you get many increments before you release. But there's definitely going to be a review of some sort of that deliverable by the customer. We call it a sprint review ceremony, and it's more than a review. It's a working session where the team demos what they have done, but at the same time, they get intelligence and feedback and collaboration to better understand what the future sprints could look like. The very final thing that happens, we call it the sprint retrospective ceremony. And this is where the team inspects and adapts. They take a look at how well the sprint went and how things could be changed, what went well, what didn't, where are the opportunities of things we need to improve on. They understand that and they put that back into either the product backlog to be worked on sometime later or even in the next sprint. So that could make its way into the sprint backlog during the next sprint. And that is Scrum in a nutshell. Now you have two solid frameworks to hang these ideas on. You have the concept of 5 process groups and the 10 knowledge areas, and now you know Scrum. So whether you look at Agile or you take a look at predictive, you got two solid frameworks to help you. So my question is, have you decided? Are you going to get PMP certified or not? Whatever you do, don't forget, go on down to Praizion.com. Those of you that have questions, send in the questions right now. We'll take them. Those of you that are watching after the fact, would like you to send an email. You can send an email to info@praizion.com. Whatever the case, we're looking forward to working with you. Now, those who have decided, I am going to do this. If you're one of those and you've decided, yep, I'm going to tackle the people process business. Like I said, you're in great hands. We've done this for many companies and individuals. And here are some images from our live training where we've trained all sorts of government agencies and individuals. All three of these gentlemen on the screen here, believe it or not, they're all PMPs right now. And you will be a PMP. Come for the journey, come for the ride. Let's do this. Now, before you jump off the call, one final thing we're going to talk about how you can get your study sequence down. Because I know after taking a look at the 5 steps, some of you immediately saw, I can do this. So I see a question, what is the time frame for this? Well, the time frame for this is anywhere from 1 month for some individuals, all the way up to 3 months. For me, when I got certified, because I was trying to do it all alone without the help of a coach, I spent 6 months trying to do it.
I got it done in 6 months, but you don't have to spend 6 months. You've got your buddy Roy, you got me, you got a lot of other folks who have been there, done that, who you'll be hearing from in the course. So you can actually get this done a lot quicker. You could get this done in less than 3 months. I guarantee you. You just need to put your mind to it. Go, go, go. Now, I know on social media, you hear folks saying, I just got it done in 2 weeks. So we all have our strengths and we have our weaknesses. And some folks are just great at picking up stuff like this. They gravitate towards it. They might have a background in very structured project management or even agile from their firm. So don't compare yourself to other people, but I would say the sweet spot is roughly 2 months to 3 months. Anything more than that, just be careful that you keep fanning the flame and you don't let the fire die out. Now, for those folks who are saying, I am going to do this, show me the sign up page already. I just want to touch on the studying and how your studying could be. So this is a plan based on what we do at Praizion. So you come aboard the system, you could begin studying Agile in week 1 in earnest. You could then study week 2, predictive, week 3, hybrid, week 4, situational questions. That first month, you go into it in an intermediate level. The following month, you go into it in an advanced level. And there is actually a learning system on the Praizion.com site. So I know some of you are like, well, Phil, I would love to be in a live course, but I can't right now. And that's okay. We have a solution for you. If you go on down to Praizion.com, that's Praizion.com, you can actually sign up for our self-study course. And if you scroll down, see we've got a self-study course. It's called PMP Exam with Agile on demand. You could do that right away. But if you want to be on our live training with live instructors, you need to click on this and that will take you to the PMP Exam Masterclass I was talking about. So whatever the case, a plan like this, scale it up, scale it down, make it a 4-month plan if you need to. But in my mind, the sweet spot will be 3, so you can tailor this however you like. But just remember, there are 5 steps, and all you need to do is take them down one by one. Now you know about the PMP exam, pretty much covered the first step. Are you going to do it? Step 2 or not? I leave the ball in your court. Thank you very much. We're going to stop this. And if there are any questions, we will get back to you. Thank you very much. Bye for now.